トビデオ
Well, it's about that time again, eh, chaps? Time once again to check in on our favorite sorceress supreme, Lina Inverse, everyone's favorite overpowered, over-emotional, underdeveloped spellcaster who loves to overeat, and whichever band of idiots or singular idiot she finds herself traveling around with in whatever particular adventure they are on. To recap to those who are new and haven't been keeping up, Slayers is a light novel series that blossomed into a media franchise that stood at the front of the pack of the fantasy anime boom in the latter half of the 90s. In 1995, you had the first season of the TV series, rough around the edges, but still a quality launching point, as well as the first movie where, through a vacation gone awry, we were introduced to the dynamic of Lina and her underdressed rival slash nemesis slash partner in crime, Naga the Serpent. In 1996, we got Slayers Next, an overall improvement in nearly every facet of the first season, with both comedy and drama elements firing on all cylinders. Simultaneously, we had the second Slayers movie, Slayers Returns, not only showing the return of Lina and Naga, but also giving them one of their most well-animated and hilarious journeys to date. And now, we go to 1997. This year, the incredibly divisive third season, Slayers Try, is currently airing, and there is some concern in the air as to whether or not the Slayers franchise is running out of juice. And like with the years before it, there is another Lina and Naga Slayers movie being produced alongside Try. You will notice that I am knocking out my annual Slayers video a bit earlier than usual this year, and that's partially because the movie they released alongside Try that year has an interesting premise. It's not that particularly out there, but once you get the gist of it, you can see why it takes the Slayers franchise down a road less traveled.
Working in this kind of refined artistic business, I suppose these men are trained to appreciate true art when they see it. A far cry from someone here devoid of artistic sense, capable only of making something that looks like a mutant bear. Hey!
Lina Inverse and Naga the Serpent have arrived at the city of Stoner doing what they do best, scheming how to get money fast while stuffing their big fat faces. It turns out that they have arrived at Stoner specifically because it is famous for the manufacturing of golems and are hoping to finagle a custom-made one to sell for easy money. No sooner than they arrive in town than they have to rescue the resident local girl of the movie, Laya Einburn, from an out-of-control golem. Laya thanks the two girls, who saved her for totally selfless reasons and not for any material reward.
By the way, my name is Lina, and this is Naga, and if you're gonna reward us with a meal, you should know that I like all kinds of food. And I'm the same way about food, but I suppose the drink I like best of all is brandy.
She does this by inviting them to stay with her father Gallia, a renowned toy golem maker whose quality of works are held in very high regard. But before Lina and Naga can rejoice elbow rubbing with the creme de la creme of craftsmen, it turns out that not all is well in the land of the toy makers. Not only is Gallia in dire financial straits thanks to him having a massive case of artist block, but he is also having it out with his apprentice and also son, Huey, over how golems should look and act like. Then our sorceresses get thrown into the mix. Huey becomes taken in by Naga's gorgeous looks and assets.
My stupid father will never understand the virtues of your beauty. I want you to be the model of my golem.
Model?
Meanwhile, Gallia takes one look at Lina and is immediately struck with inspiration to create.
How would you like to be the model that I'll use to create my next golem?
A model? I wouldn't mind.
The two sorceresses have now become models for each of the men's next golem project, and considering their own relationship, they'll be glad to take part in this family feud.
Explosion! Ah! What are you doing?
While all this is going on, Stoner is prepping for a huge festival where two remote-controlled golems will duke it out with each other in a grand competition. The two feuding aristocrats of Stoner, Lord Hyzen and Lord Granian, are using the festivities as cover for their clandestine scheme to take over the town from the other lord and mass produce the winner of the golem fight as a weapon of war to conquer the entire country. Hyzen puts his financial backing on Huey and Naga, while Granian hires Gallia and Lina as his fighters of choice. With a recipe for a knockout, drag-out golem fight between the two bull-headed sorceresses thick in the air, it looks like this friendly competition is going to cause more damage than the organizers anticipated. As I plug my way through the Slayers franchise, I do get the sense that the people behind it all are trying to do their due diligence in keeping each entry feeling fresh. With a lighthearted fantasy franchise like this one, the risk of falling into repetition is always there. And while I can't say that the gimmick Slayer's Great hangs its sorceress cape on isn't completely off the wall, it's a little out there considering its setting. What I mean is, Slayer's Great is... Yep, when you boil it all down to it, this movie is just exactly Slayers Goes Mecha. That's why I was so excited to get to it, because it all centers around a set piece where Lina and Naga have a giant robot fight. The giant robots being the golems, of course. And just like the series it was running parallel to, Slayers Great also managed to be divisive to the fanbase. While others have praised it, others have called it a real weak point for the franchise. Noted anime localizer and essayist Fred Patton especially was not a fan of how it seemed to lean way too far into the comedy and being too silly for its own good. So we got a gimmicky premise of Slayers kinda sorta playing around in unfamiliar territory and doing so to a pretty mixed reception amongst hardcore fans and casuals alike. Did Slayers experimenting with its own genre really warrant such a reception? Well, whatever the case is, this video is not going to end without a few blocks getting knocked off.
It's old. Grow up!
I'm not going to be talking about the production aspects of Slayers Great because what do you even need to know? The first movie was successful, the second movie was successful, ergo, we need a third movie to also be successful. And you had a lot of the same major players who worked on the previous movies also working on this one as well. Kanzaka, Yuyama, Watanabe, you know, all the boys. The only real fascinating detail about this film is its release as a double feature alongside past episode subject Tenchi Muyo, Daughter of Darkness. Not only do we get two popular 90s anime franchises getting paired up with each other, but it also just happens to be their most divisive film entries. Now, what I really want to talk about is the usage of mecha within a sword and sorcery setting, because it's actually not that absurd when you think about it. Before the robot was even invented as a concept, we had the golem, the earliest incarnation of an automaton, given animation by holy men to follow the order set out by them without question. It shows that the idea of the man-made man has its roots more so in mysticism and fantasy rather than hard science fiction. But mecha and fantasy are on two complete opposite ends of the genre spectrum, and any connectivity between the two of them are just stretches. Sure, a fantasy anime can have an arc about taking down a cursed automaton, and a mecha anime can have a setting with magic and the occasional dragon, but having the two genre merge is rare. Note that I said rare, not non-existent. There is, in fact, a micro subgenre of anime that I'd like to call fantasy mecha, which is exactly what it says on the tin. Mecha anime that takes place primarily in a high fantasy or magical setting in lieu of a more modern, futuristic sci-fi setting. The example of this subgenre would be 1983's Aura Battler Dunbine, which came courtesy of Gundam creator Yoshiyuki Tomino. The main draw of Dunbine was that, despite the setting being full of the fantasy trappings like knights, dragons, and fairies, most of the fighting was done by the eponymous Aura Battler, gigantic fighting suits powered by life force, or aura. From there, other fantasy mecha titles began to crop up over the years, including Magic Knight's Rayearth, Scrap Princess, and the most famous of them all, Visions of Escaflowne. In fact, I don't think it would be surprising to learn that the Slayers Great staff probably had Escaflowne on their minds when making this film, since the anime had released last year. But there is one major difference that separates Slayers Great from all the other aforementioned fantasy mecha. Slayers Great is not taking itself seriously whatsoever. Okay, I've really shown my hand early regarding Slayers Great being more comedy than it is both fantasy and mecha. But regardless, you do feel an attitude that the staff wanted to emulate a mecha anime, at least in the technical sense. This is a quality we can attribute to the designer of the golems, animator, and co-animation director Kazunori Iwakura. If JC's staff ever had someone to call their golden boy animator, it's definitely Iwakura, with how he has continuously popped off on so many of their projects. And considering how much positions he was given for this anime, I'd say Slayer's Great bears the most of his thumbprints. The whole anime is built around this duel between Lina and Naga and their respective golems designed to look like them. So of course, Iwakura was given the most important job to design them, making them striking, fun to animate, but most importantly, be excellent visual gags. I kinda have spoiled the punchlines already, it's unavoidable when you show clips, but the reveals of the Lina and Naga golems are the best executed jokes this anime has. First, there's Huey's Naga golem, which is the spitting image of her right down to the big guns.
Oh, Mommy, look what that lady... Close your eyes, son! Close your eyes!
But if there's any recognizable visual from Slayer's Great, it would be Galya's Lina golem, presented without comments. Isn't it beautiful? The Neko-archification of Lina Inverse on a colossal scale, complete with the appropriate footfall foley.
Cute walking sounds! It's true, Galya's pure genius!
However silly these designs are though, Iwakura and company allows them to move in ways that exhibit their awesome power while also delving into prime physical comedy, all of which is assisted by Yuyama's boarding and usage of excellent comedic timing.
Forehead slap!
The whole back half of Slayer's Great indulges itself in the potential silliness of mecha anime. You know what makes a comedic fight scene even better? Just have the fighters be 50 feet tall.
Show her what you got, darling Lina doll! Knee popper attack!
Voice acting is the usual suspects, so of course we got excellent performances in both Japanese and English, thanks to Hayashi Bara and Kawamura on one end,
確かに素朴ね。いい意味でも悪い意味でも。どういう意味よ。そんな変な格好のゴーレム作って威張んないでほしいわね。
and Martinez and Madison on the other.
Wait a minute, what's that supposed to mean? And stop gloating over that weird and strange thing! What weird and strange thing? How dare you say that?
If there is one standout performance that's unique to this anime, it's gotta be Hilary Haag as Laya. Out of all the put-upon straight men that is saddled with Lina and company for the arc, Laya has to be the most put-uponiest. Not only trapped in essentially babysitting the two dunderheaded sorceresses against her will, but also being caught up in the middle of her family's bull.
Feeling unfortunate? It's starting to feel really good!
Haag effectively communicates this exhaustion so well, especially through Laya's catchphrase, which sums up the raw deal she's currently found herself in.
I'm sure of it. My life really stinks.
The character of Laya is but one example of the kind of humor Slayer's Great is trying to pull off. One of the main reoccurring critiques of this film is that it revels in its silliness to the film's detriment. It's operating on a similar wavelength to Slayer's Return, where most of that comedy was taking the most straightforward plot point to its silliest conclusion.
That's there.
Slayer's Great, meanwhile, takes plot points that are already kinda silly and makes them even sillier. In fact, if I can put it into words better, it feels like the film is a sort of meta-commentary on itself and the Slayer's franchise as a whole. Laya does appear to be set up like the typical townsperson who believes Lina and Naga are actual heroes who know what they are doing instead of the bullheaded bimbos that they are, but from the beginning, it's clear that Laya sees the two dunderheads exactly as they are and is pretty much forced to tag alongside them, hence her exasperation. And the main villainous plot is also treated like a joke. Lord Hyzen and Lord Granian spend the first half of the film scheming in the shadows about how each of their plans are coming together nicely while rubbing their jeweled hands in anticipation. But when the designs of the golems they sunk most of their fortunes into get revealed for the whole village, they spend the rest of the film bemoaning how they can't conquer the country with golems like those.
All of this is so humiliating. You too. The same thoughts have gone through my mind.
And even Lina and Naga's usual butting of the heads is given more comedy than usual. About a third of the way through the film, Lina and Naga's antipathy reaches a fever pitch after Huey sabotages his father. This leads to the two sorceresses to have a fierce duel in the city streets in the middle of the night. And by the way it's shot and animated, it looks to be a really serious duel. It goes on until we get to see Naga's ultimate attack.
Flat chest. Killer attack. Flat chest crush.
But okay, it actually goes back to being a serious duel. That is, until... yeah, they might need to come back in the morning. But even with the good, well-executed jokes here and there, I do see where the people who don't like this anime are coming from. In order to really sell a lot of the comedy, they do have to take Lina and Naga's personalities up a couple of notches. Not to forecome comedy levels, but just enough that they are appropriately more zany to the anime's overall tone.
So you destroy your father's golem core, and now you try to recruit Naga, even though Naga's a total moron?
They both seem to be angrier, greedier, and louder than usual. I think this is the Slayer's title where Lina is the most shoutiest, even if it is justified by her getting sealed into her golem as a magical battery against her will.
The hell I'm gonna forgive you? Let me out! Let me out of here! How dare you do this to me who died and made you king, old man!
Lina and Naga's status as the resident Captain Wackies would probably be easier to swallow if it was shown that they are more three-dimensional than they are. It's the element that helps keep Slayer's return grounded in spite of similar wackiness. But in the lead up to the big golem fight set piece, it seems like the two sorceresses are relegated to taking a back seat to the intertwining of the family drama and the Lord's evil plans. And in the golem fight, they are nothing more than Muppeteers performing with their giant stone 15-story tall Muppets. They are practically as much of a comedic prop as their golems. I guess it wouldn't be that big a deal if the main plot was compelling. But aside from Huey and Gallia's philosophy of golem creation, reading like anime figurine makers discussing the merits between scale and Nendoroid type,
Girl without any hips or breasts, a face screaming to be caricatured as super cute. Yes, I was excited when I saw her. Oh yeah!
Damn you.
it doesn't feel that particularly gripping. And the plotline with the two evil lords ends up solving itself once Lina does her trademark Dragon Slave spell for the finale, destroying Naga's golem and the two lords' castle, thus inadvertently getting them stripped of their titles. And after that, it just peters out with everybody's problems solved and Lina and Naga chasing each other off into the sunset with their next adventure. Out of all the Slayers titles I have covered so far in the show, this one feels the gimmickiest, relying on the draw of Lina and Naga getting to fight each other in their universe's equivalent of a mecha and not much else. A troubling sign for the franchise's freshness in retrospect. Regardless, I still had fun with this one. Even if this was a gimmicky and downright silly Slayers movie, it was an enjoyable one. JC's staff really leaned into their strengths as animators and boarders to turn a cheap gimmick into a spectacular one. Slayers Great is by no means the best Slayers movie, and its divisive reputation is not unearned. But look at that face. How can you even hate it?